Welcome to Tucson Luxe Living podcast. Our guest today is Krystal Holm. She is a clutter and feng shui expert. We're going to talk about making your home a beautiful, high vibrational, wonderful place to be. Welcome to the show, Krystal.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, Alicia.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about what it is that you do. A lot of people have heard of feng shui, but maybe they're not entirely clear on what that is. Obviously, everyone knows what clutter is.
Most people do. I think it's obvious, but you'd be surprised at how often I get into this conversation and I say something and people will just be like, light bulb goes off with, wait a minute, I never thought of clutter that way. So clutter is always an interesting animal to get into a conversation about. It's one of my favorites. So
let's talk a little bit about what feng shui is on sort of a high level. So we'll do, we won't go too deep into it because a lot of people may already know what it is, but it is such an integral part of what you do and creating a space that really feels uplifting and empowering and just a healthy place to be in. So can you start by sharing a little bit about sort of those basic fundamental principles associated with feng shui?
Sure, absolutely. Basic principles is just that your space, right? Your home has an energetic frequency, and feng shui is really about that, studying that relationship, the relationship of your energetic frequency and that of your home, and how those two things marry together to uplift you or drain you. That's in a nutshell what we do in feng shui, right? It's just studying the flow of energy in your space and the planet, right? It's just how the energy flows everywhere.
So now there are going to be some people who are going to say, oh, that's just that woo-woo stuff. But a lot of people, they can feel it, right? So if you walk into a home that is, let's use the example of clutter. So maybe they have a lot of clutter. Even the way that their furniture is set up just feels very cluttered. It doesn't really feel warm. It doesn't feel comfortable. It doesn't feel inviting. We can feel that. It makes us feel physically uncomfortable.
It does.
From the perspective of someone's home office, and we've talked about this in the past on my other podcast, is your space helping you to be productive, to feel abundant, to feel empowered, confident, assertive, whatever those things are that you want to create for yourself? Our environment influences us, it affects us, but we want to talk a little bit about how we ultimately are the creator of our space. And so if you're in that sort of dysfunctional, cluttered space, who did that? Who created that? And how can we now start to make adjustments in our home so that it is supporting the person that we want to be and how we want to feel?
Yep. That's absolutely right. I mean, your home is a reflection of it's a barometer, really. That's sort of what I refer to it as, right? How it's reflecting what's going on with you. And so when we've got clutter, the only one to blame is ourselves. And I don't really like blame, right? Clutter happens. It's a thing. We are constantly growing and evolving and becoming, right, this next version of ourselves, right? No matter where we are in life, we're always at the beginning or the end of like a cycle, right? And what's coming and what's happening and what's next. And so your space reflects that, right? There's a reason that we say these things, like your home is your castle and it's your sanctuary and it's your space. It's because it is that reflection of you. energetically and, emotionally, right? Physically, it's a reflection of all of those things.
So now someone listening is saying, okay, I got hooked into listening to this particular podcast because I have clutter and I need to do something about it. I want to speak to that because clutter is a real issue. And sometimes it's minor, let some things accumulate on your desk or on your counter. Sometimes it seems justifiable. You've got 5 kids, they're running around, they're leaving stuff everywhere. But sometimes it is more problematic than that, where we actually can get into even like hoarding and things like that. Now, regardless of where someone is on that spectrum, everyone wants a beautiful space that feels good. So let's talk to that a little bit. And I'd love for you, from your vantage point as an expert in this area and helping people to eliminate that clutter, what are some things that people can do to begin the decluttering process?
Well, there's 5 steps, right? And the first step is literally to discover your clutter. And this is sort of what I was getting at in the beginning, right? And you said, like, I think everybody knows what clutter is. And I find that a lot of people don't. A lot of people think trash is clutter and trash is trash. Clutter is clutter, right? And clutter is anything you do not need, use, or love. So that encompasses a whole lot of things, right? So just discovering what your clutter is literally the first step. And I think that's a big step for a lot of people. Most people want to automatically go from there to step 5, right? Which is donate. And you can download these steps. I give this away for free to my audience and other people's audiences because it does help to go about this process. You can download it at declutteryourmindset.com. And it will take you through all 5 of these steps, because step 1 is great. Step 5 is great, but all of the magic really happens in steps 2, 3, and 4, because your clutter is, like I said, a reflection of what's going on. So what that means is it's like your mental and emotional clutter is reflected in the physical clutter. So even just being able to recognize, is this clutter or is it not? Because today, this might not be clutter. Tomorrow, it might be clutter. It depends on who I am and who I become. And so as things become clutter, we need to let them go so that we are surrounded by the things that we need, use, and love.
So I want to just talk for a moment about the mindset piece. And this is an interesting concept that I think a lot of people don't really consider. When someone decides that they're going to change an aspect of their life, maybe it's like weight loss. I'm going to lose 5 pounds. Now, there are very practical things that you can do to lose 5 pounds. But if you don't change the root cause of why you gained that weight to begin with, then it becomes much more likely that you gain it back.
Right.
So when you're taking people through this process, are you helping them to work through whatever the root cause of their clutter is?
Yes, that's what steps 2, 3, and 4 are all about in going through this decluttering process, because they have to diagnose it so that they can disconnect from it, dissolve those connections, and then move into donating their clutter and getting rid of it. Because unless they do that, just like the example you gave, the weight loss example, they'll lose that 5 pounds and then they'll gain back 10 pounds. The same thing is true with clutter. And strangely enough, one of the funny things about clutter is weight gain is often a protection mechanism to keep people at a distance, right? We have such a fat phobia. And so it keeps people at a distance. And it's one of the ways that we protect ourselves. Clutter is also one of those ways that we protect ourselves. And so often, right, people want to keep the clothes, their skinny clothes. And it actually makes them, it stops them from losing weight. Keeping your skinny clothes actually energetically keeps you stuck in this stagnant cycle. When you release those, it's really strange how often the weight, the physical weight on your body releases also. Yeah, it's amazing how often that happens, where you do this massive declutter, especially when it's specific around clothes. Even I oftentimes see people just lose weight that they couldn't lose after that. It's strange how that happens.
Well, as someone who is an avid researcher and studier of the subconscious mind, I could go into that. I will omit that from this episode. But there is some value here for our listeners in understanding that the things that you're holding on to, when you look at those things and you feel that they are pulling you down emotionally, it's time for you to give some serious consideration to releasing and letting those things go. Just like we wouldn't want to keep photos of, our ex from high school when you're happily married now. It's natural to release and let go of certain things when you transition to new phases in your life, which is what you have already talked about. Now, when people have a lot of clutter, how often is it that they need to purge things versus they're just not very good at organization?
Well, I really think that everybody should purge about 3 times a year. Spring cleaning, back to school, and New Year's. I really believe that we really can do some massive decluttering that often. Everyone. It's very healthy to be able to do that and to be able to release what's old. There's so much with like consumerism, right? And this pushing to buy. But we are, as humans, it is our human nature to buy, to purchase, to spend money, to be
accumulators.
Acquiring. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Acquiring.
Great accumulators.
Yes, I was looking for the right word. Acquiring, accumulating. It is in our nature. It is literally wired into our DNA. So it's part of an actual practice that is a good to develop, to do a purge 3 times a year. And then of course you can do your cleaning and your little stuff throughout that, but those 3 times a year are very important to be able to have a fresh like a fresh start, right? To reset the energy in your house, to get yourself back down to I mean, that doesn't mean you have to get rid of everything, but purge everything that you've outgrown, right? All the things that you now don't need, or love, right? And so that's a really good way to keep healthy energy flowing in your space, and just a healthy reflection. It gives you time to reflect,
So that right there is a huge takeaway for people. We've covered a couple of things that I would guess, and this is just a guess, but I would guess are not things that most people have considered before with respect to clutter and purging and just creating an environment in their home that is more supportive.
Mhm.
Now, I'd love to pick your brain just a little bit more before we round out this episode. And I'm curious if there is maybe some type of tip or takeaway that you can share with us that we can implement today to make our home more of what maybe is that sanctuary, that perfect space that makes us feel the way that we want to feel. So from your perspective, from your area of expertise, is there just a little bit of something that our listeners can maybe do today or tomorrow or this week that can freshen up their space a little bit?
Sure. I want you to just think of your home differently for a minute. Instead of just thinking of it as a building or a space or whatever, just this thing, I want you to think of your home as your best friend. Your best friend. And it's their birthday today. What are you going to do for your best friend on their birthday? Are you going to pay attention to them? Are you going to do something nice for them? Are you going to buy them a gift or take them to lunch or love them, right? You're going to show them that you love them, at least on that one day, right? If you don't do it all year long, but on that one day, it's going to be extra, right? You're going to go above and beyond the normal love that you show to your best friend, and you're going to go all out. And I want you to do that for your home. Because the truth is, your home is your best friend. It's a reflection of you. And it needs to be your best friend because you need to be your best friend. Treating your home the way you would treat your best friend is a very sneaky kind of way of treating yourself better. Because we tend to be hard on ourselves. We tend to beat ourselves up. If the house is a mess, we beat ourselves up about it. But the fact is, like, the house is a mess because we're beating ourselves up. So by starting to treat our space like you would treat your best friend, you've got beautiful flowers behind you. When was the last time the rest of us bought flowers for ourselves, right? It's just something a little treat that you can do for your space that just makes you smile when you walk into the room.
I love that.
Whatever that is. Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how a little gesture like that can be so uplifting. So, with the example of a bouquet of flowers, I know there are some people who religiously buy a fresh bouquet of flowers and have it in, on their kitchen table or somewhere where they can see it on a regular basis because they find it so uplifting. Just some simple little thing. It doesn't even have to be expensive or extravagant, but that is a fantastic example of loving yourself as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a fun little tip. And I hope everyone will take that to heart and find what is your thing, right? Maybe flowers aren't your thing. Maybe you have been annoyed by that cracked outlet cover for the past 6 months. Go buy a new outlet cover, right?
Right, something, or a candle to make it smell the way you want. If you want it to smell like cookies, go bake yourself some cookies and get your house to smell the way you want it to. Or, but yeah, I mean, flowers isn't your thing. You know what your thing is. And do that, that thing that you hate, like you say, the cover or the lampshade, right? I know people that are like lampshades or the sheets or whatever that thing is, the thing that popped into your mind when I said it, like, do it today.
So fun.
Yeah.
All right, Krystal, you mentioned you have the free guide.
Mm-hmm.
And that is at your website, correct? So can you share that URL again so our listeners can head over there and get that from you?
Absolutely. They can just go to declutteryourmindset.com and it'll just take you right there.
Excellent. This has been a fun conversation. I love when we can take something like our home, which is such an important part of our life, and we can elevate it to that next level. Our home should feel good to us. Our home should feel like our safe sanctuary. It should feel like something we're proud to share with people that we care about. And if it doesn't, that means that there is some work to do. So
Right. It's your castle and you're the queen.
or
So, or king. Yeah. But you deserve to be treated that way, right? So many of us are not familiar at all with what that feels like. So just start little, and it's fun to be queen or king.
Well, thank you so much, Krystal. This has been a really fun conversation. We've had some really great takeaways. So I hope our listeners will apply some of the things that we talked about today and head over to your website, grab your clutter guide and start doing that work. It will obviously improve not only the way you feel in your home, but just the way you feel in general.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we've got to thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already subscribed, please make sure you do so. And until next time, we will see you in the next episode.